Previously on MetaZoo! A man from the shadows. A catastrophe in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, when the veil, after 1,000 years, finally shattered. Sam and Max, two kids with intuitions who survived the catastrophe. M, the man who adopted them. A man made of magic. And now, 16 years old, Sam and Adam, on MetaZoo. Andy's eyes widened, and his pupils sharpened to a point. The river dino's eyes and face twitched in unison, and with a great leap it pounced onto Sam's chest, digging its claws into white flesh as it did so. It was only the size and weight of a medium-sized dog, but the momentum it carried threw Sam onto the asphalt with a wet smack. As pain exploded into Sam's body from 1,000 different places, all he could do was focus on a singular point. On the river dino's forehead. It was Andy's sigil, burned deep red into the flesh and making the one responsible for his pain impossible to deny. This was one of the downfalls of contracting a beastie for those of us with criminal inclinations. It always left the mark of the caster somewhere. Sam wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in Unity City, perhaps in a darkened basement where only mushrooms and secrets grow, a database of casters' sigils were kept on file as a fingerprinting system. Indeed, many dark casters had taken up the habit of carving nonsense sigils into whatever beastie they contracted, to remove any culpability, and not a few people had been framed for crimes they didn't commit as a result. Easy, Andy. You're going to kill him. The leader of this merry band, Stefan, said with an all-too-easy chuckle. Stefan was a hulking Bulgarian who had hit puberty perhaps a little too soon, and he had, also once, been Sam's friend. Before the shattering of the veil, that is. Sam remembered Stefan once telling him that Bulgaria was really well known for curling. It struck Sam as odd at that time that the entire country would be known for a single weightlifting exercise, but there are certainly stranger things in the world, especially now. Stefan knelt by Sam's struggling body and put a hand on the river dino's snout, muffling its snarls. You know, you sure do talk a lot of shit for someone who doesn't use magic. Sam, every morning we come here to educate you, but every morning you just get stupider and stupider. Stefan said with a type of condensation that almost came off as sympathetic. We just want you to cast one little spell. We know you can do it. You have such a hard-on for these beasties that killed our friends and family, but something against using magic. Help me understand. Stefan propped his spellbook on his knee and flipped to a bookmark page. A moment of concentration, and then a tiny fire wisp the size of a lit candle's flame appeared at the tip of Sam's nose. Sam muffled his own cries. After all, Mrs. Chapel was his next-door neighbor, and Sam made every effort to hide his daily torments from his family. His first stop after the morning beatings was always a magical emergency clinic, MEC, just outside of his school that specializes in superficial cuts, bruises, and burns, often magical in nature. And why were these kids so cruel? Cruel in a way we all experience in our youth but soon forget. Cruel in a way that only children can be. Sam could use his magic, yes, but he chose not to. This was seen as not only odd behavior, but it verged on the sacrilegious in the New World Order. It wasn't helped by the fact that everyone in town knew that Sam and Adam were the only survivors of that fated baseball game 8 years ago. where so many of their own friends and family had perished. Sure, millions of people died that day, all over the world, but the fact that they were the sole survivors of that particular local incident rubbed the local people the wrong way. And Sam was still paying for it, and paying for it gladly. And while most of the world had learned to adapt to the reality of Cryptid Nation, as the U.S. had become known to be called, the residents of Point Pleasant never truly understood why Adam loved cryptids the way he did. The cruelty wasn't limited to the town's children. The adults actively, but more subtly and perhaps unknowingly, participated as well. The C on an exam instead of the earned B+. Stale bread instead of the fresh bread when he went to Piggly Wiggly on 3rd Street. Bus doors that closed just a little too soon as Sam ran to catch them. Cruelty by 1,000 cuts. But such a consistent slow burn of cruelty was enough to leave any child feeling unloved. Ooh.
Man, poor Sam. That's rough. That's rough. So he's kind of like carrying this burden with him because of all the horrible shit he's been through, that people kind of hold it against him.
But why won't he use his magic?
Because magic's what killed the parents. It's what killed everybody.
Okay, so the veil breaks, and the veil unleashes magic, and it's everywhere, literally, and everyone has the power of magic now.
Mm-hmm. Well, not everyone.
Not everyone? Who's missing magic? Who have we met so far that doesn't have the power of magic? Magic is everywhere.
Well, just the way he's writing and wording it sounds like there are casters and people who can use magic, and then there's people who aren't so gifted in magic.
All right, at this point, I'm just taking a guess. I'm going on a limb. I think everyone has some magical ability, whether it's honed or not. I mean, they know Sam can cast, and he doesn't. So how do they know? When has he used his magic?
Right, he has to have used it already.
And why won't he? I mean, I get it. He's proud. And no, I don't get it. I'd be using it. I'd be using it on them. Even if it was privately, I'd be training with the magic. I'd be crafting it. I'd be making sure the next time they came through, I didn't have to use it much. But come on, Sam, wake up.
I think it's interesting that they said that the people made fun of him for saying that he's obsessed with the beasties, but he won't use magic. So Sam already likes the beasties. So he's not blaming beasties necessarily. He's fascinated by them. So just interesting. Yeah. So I think we're already headed in the direction of a benevolent caster, somebody who's going to try to befriend beasties rather than enslave them with his dark will.
I also thought it was interesting that they said, let me bring this back up just for a second, something about how Adam loved beasties. Did you catch that?
They were saying that Sam loved beasties.
No, maybe it's a typo. The residents of Point Pleasant never truly understood why Adam loved cryptids the way he did. That is what it says. And then it goes back to Sam. So yeah, I'm not sure.
The kids make fun of Sam for liking cryptids.
See, this sentence with the why Adam loved cryptids the way he did makes me think it might be a little sadistic. Like it might be a little, I don't know if that's the right word. I just used it. It might be a little dark. Like, what if Adam loves cryptids because he can manipulate the fuck out of them?
Maybe.
Because that's what it seemed like with that jackalope. It seemed like Adam was like, oh, no, look, guys, you can, and sometimes, you don't even need to use your...
you can just toy with them.
Yeah, and what? I mean, that is a weird love if that's love. Or it's a typo, or it's not. And there's something more.
I don't know.
And we will find out.